My name is Angela Hiller, and I am a SAP counselor for Marikey. I'm really pleased to be with you today to present you with a short webinar on helping your child to take ownership of their digital media lives and how you can help them to be safer on social media. This particular webinar is aimed more at parents of elementary age children. And I think that this is a timely topic right now, because as many of us are staying at home due to COVID-19, I know that some of our kids are spending more time online than they typically do, because we know that they're not supposed to be outside playing with their friends right now, and they're not at school. School's at home right now. So I know for me, as a parent of two kids, my kids are spending some more time than they normally do, using their technology, spending time, watching TV. So I think that this is a great time to think about some ways that they can stay safer right now and also in the future. So there are some goals for this webinar. I want you to help your child to learn to be a good digital citizen. I'd also like you to help your child to better protect their privacy and safety online. I want you to help your child to feel comfortable in knowing how to respond to cyberbullying. And I'd also like to give you some tips or suggestions for helping to balance your child's media life. So there are a lot of great things that we can use the internet and social media for. Some of the pros to internet and social media use include being able to easily access knowledge and information about different topics. Sharing resources is made much easier when we can do them online. Right now, most of our kids are learning at home, so technology is really important for helping to keep parents, teachers, and students on the same page. These types of things like social media apps and all of the different technology also helps kids have fun with their friends. They can play games together online, speak to one another through Skype or other online calls. Zoom is used a lot nowadays. But in addition to that, kids can also keep in touch with their family and friends, maybe some people who live far away, but also some people that might live right across the street. And additionally, playing games and learning online can be fun for kids. Just as with anything that has positive things about it, there are some negative things that can happen with social media and using the internet. Social media and the internet can be very distracting for kids. It can also be addictive. We know that cyberbullying happens online. Talk more about that later. And the internet can easily be used in a dangerous and improper way. It's very easy for kids to share personal information online that actually should be kept private. And social media and the use of the internet does reduce direct human interaction, which can be a negative. One final thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that false information can also be shared online. The first topic that I wanted to discuss with you is how you can help your child to be a good digital citizen. So what does it mean to be a good digital citizen? Well, being a good online citizen is more than just being a safe internet user. It's about having a responsibility, being smart, and having respect for yourself and others. And as a user of the web, various apps and different social networking sites and other online forums, you are considered to be a citizen of different communities. Just like in real life communities, there are rules that it's important to follow that can help to make sure that your child's going to have the best experience possible. I like the next graphic because it shows us and introduces us to the acronym SMART. So teaching your kids to use that word to help them to remember these 5 steps can be really helpful. The acronym SMART stands for staying safe, don't meet up, accepting files, reliable, and tell someone. So let's start with the first S. Staying safe, that's about teaching our kids not to give information out that would be personal, especially not to people or places that they don't know. The M in the acronym stands for don't meet up. Make sure your kids know that it's never okay to meet someone that they've met online. That's very dangerous. And make sure that they're checking with an adult that they trust. The A in the acronym stands for accepting files. That includes any emails, pictures, or files, or anything from people that you don't know, because there could be malintent behind that. It could be a virus that they're sending you, a corrupt file, or even an inappropriate picture or email. The R in SMART stands for reliable. It's always important to teach kids to make sure that information is reliable, that it's accurate. Is that website or that person telling the truth? And the T stands for telling someone. So a child should always be taught that if something makes them feel uncomfortable, that they need to find a trusted adult that they can share those feelings with or those concerns with. Here are some other tips for helping kids to create a positive digital footprint. It's important to teach your kids that they need to make sure to post and comment and upload things responsibly. One of the ways that you can do that is by being a role model. When you're posting your own photos or comments or things, sharing information about your kids to your personal social media accounts, it's great practice to ask your kids before you post whether or not they like that picture or they approve of it. That helps them to see that you're being a role model for them, and also that you're thinking about what you're posting before you put something online. Another tip that I'd like to share is that you always have the right to question things, especially if your student is in elementary school. Most schools have some kind of technology policy or also a privacy policy where you need to give permission for the school district to post photos or information about your kids online. So make sure you understand those policies, and if you're not comfortable, you do have the right to not give permission. So please make sure that you have an understanding of those types of policies. The next tip that I would like to share is to help your child to realize that anything that's posted online is permanent. This is something especially for them to consider as they get older, and they need to make sure that whatever's on the internet will last forever. So they shouldn't post anything that they don't want to be on there forever. This next tip I particularly like. I want you to think of someone that you and your child admire. Maybe it's a musician or athlete, someone that is a public figure or even a celebrity. This is maybe a tip that's more appropriate for older children, but you can find that person's social media account if they have one and show it to your child. Talk about what that person has posted and ask your child what their impressions are of that person based on their social media content. I think that's a really valuable tool for helping kids to think about what kind of footprint they will be leaving with their own social media posts. I'd like to give you some tips for safety and privacy and security online. One conversation that's really important to have with your kids is to talk about the difference between personal and private information and what is okay to be shared on the internet. So teaching your kids about personal information like sharing your favorite food or favorite color online, that is something that's okay, versus sharing private information like a home address or a child's first and last name. Additionally, there are always privacy settings that you can check. So it's important to go through those settings with your child, look for any new apps that are being downloaded, and make sure you understand what information is being shared through those apps. Especially in the beginning, it's very important to share very little information. Also, make sure that you take note of any location tracking. Location-aware apps can be helpful, but those location services for nearby businesses should be used with caution. Turn those types of things off if you're able to. Another thing that's important to teach your kids about is to skip the quizzes or things online that they might see. You want to make sure that they're aware of what clickbait is. Anything that pops up, those quizzes, special offers, if you've ever seen the wheel that you can spin to get a prize, those types of things might ask for personal or private information. And while it's very appealing to kids, they might get sucked into that trap. So please make sure that they're aware of the pitfalls of getting involved with those. You'd also be wise to make sure that you work together with your kids to help them come up with complex passwords. You don't want to put your family dog's name down as the password. Make sure it's something that your kids might not even be able to remember to share and pass on to a friend by accident. Make sure, again, it's something secure that you come up with as a family. So I'd like to talk more now about cyberbullying and what it is. Cyberbullying is repeated and unwanted mean or hurtful words or behavior that is occurring online or through text messages, email, online chat. It's important to make sure that your kids understand what cyberbullying is and to have them be aware of that definition. While I was preparing for this webinar, I tried to find some adequate statistics for how prevalent the cyberbullying issue is with elementary school age kids. And it was interesting to find that there really is not much information out there. Pretty much any of the studies that have been done with the prevalence of cyberbullying involves kids age 12 and older. So while I would love to share how frequently this is happening with kindergarten through fifth grade age students, I don't feel like I have accurate information to provide there. But just know that these tips will help. It's important to check in with your kids about their online life, just as when my son comes home from school, I ask him what he had for lunch that day. Also, make sure that you're aware of who they're interacting with online. I usually make a habit once a day or so of watching my son play games online. And when I look at the people's screen names, I always ask, if I don't recognize who it belongs to, who that child is that screen name belongs to. And if it's not somebody he knows, then he's not allowed to play with them. One of the things that you can also do if your child is playing online is to role play with them. You can have conversations with that child where you're pretending that they're in a situation where they're involved in digital drama. You want to help them role play through that situation and teach them how they can handle something like that. Another important tip is that you always want to encourage an upstanding when it comes to digital drama. So what is an upstander? Well, we know what a bystander is. A bystander is somebody who stands by and watches bullying happen and doesn't do much about it or anything at all. Well, an upstander is when a friend or a classmate or a peer is supportive of someone online in making sure that they're speaking up about what's happening. And upstanding can really make a big difference. So if your child feels safe confronting the bully, they should. If not, maybe a private message to the victim can be enough to help someone through a situation. So maybe they just send that private message and say, hey, I'm really sorry that you went through that. That wasn't right. Some other tips to help with cyberbullying are to encourage your kids to take breaks. So if you notice that they're experiencing some digital drama, make sure that they know that it's okay to take a break. It's great for them to determine their own limits themselves and when they need to step back, but you might need to help them with that. Another tip is to review worst case steps for a child. So make sure that you walk through with your kid what to do if they are in a cyberbullying situation. So first, make sure they know that they can step away. Ignoring the bully can also be really effective. If the bullying continues, though, make sure that they know that it's okay for them to take screenshots or print out evidence of what's happening. then they can block the person. If it gets worse somehow, then they should report the behavior to a trusted adult. Talk about who those people are and make sure that your kid has their contact information. Now that we've talked about some ways that you can help to support your child through cyberbullying, let's move on to helping your kids to balance their media lives. So it's really important to create access-free times or screen-free times. So access times where they can have access to the digital media or the internet or their video games, but also make sure that they know that there's screen-free times. So those types of times might occur at dinner time or during study time in their bedrooms. I know my son's not allowed to take his devices into his bedroom at night, and we usually try to put a time limit on how much time per day he spends with social media or digital media. We also want to make sure, again, to work with the parental controls. You can set content limits on certain things. So my son plays with a Nintendo Switch. So we are able to say, okay, you get 45 minutes today or an hour today. And then once that limit is reached, he's not able to play anymore. Doesn't give him access. So have conversations about healthy limits, just as you would having a conversation about healthy eating or healthy lifestyle choices. There's also a lot of good features out there like content filtering. Again, making sure to set privacy settings so that you avoid anything. Another thing to do is to establish clear family rules. So decide together what type of media is okay and what is not okay, and when it's okay to use that particular type of media. So a family media plan can help everyone to get on the same page. So perhaps you say after 6 o'clock at night, all of the family puts down their electronics and ends their use of digital media for the day. So it's also a great idea to watch and play together. There's a really wonderful website, which I've gotten information for this presentation from, which is called Common Sense Media. And that's a site that I have used to reference to find out if certain movies or shows are appropriate for my kids. So there's parents that will rate different programs. There's kids that will rate it, and you're able to access what age it's recommended as being appropriate for, as well as whether or not there's any foul language or violence that are prevalent within that particular program. So again, using Common Sense Media is a really great thing that you can do to find family appropriate movies and content. The last thing that I would suggest here is to help kids to identify healthy behaviors. That includes helping them to talk about their feelings, both physical and emotional, during their screen and non-screen activities. I also tried to find some information to share with you about safety tips that are appropriate for certain age groups. So as you know, we've been talking about tips for elementary age kids. One theme that is appropriate for kids from ages 5 to all the way up to 11 or 12 would be to have a family computer in an open area where parents are able to easily supervise and see what their kids are doing. This is something that we personally do in our house. Our computer is actually in our kitchen, so it makes it a little awkward when we have company. We have to move it out of the way. But I like that I can always see what my son is doing online easily. So let's talk about the 5 to 7-year-old age range. It's important that you always sit with your kids when they're this age and they're online. Make sure to help them to use kid-friendly search engines. We'll talk a little bit more about some of those in a couple slides. You also want to make sure that you're setting age-appropriate filtering at the most restrictive level, especially at this age. So you may be able to limit your kids to a list of bookmark sites, maybe PBS Kids or a Disney website. It's important to keep, again, your computer or the technology in an open area where you can easily supervise them. And this is a great time to start having conversations about privacy online with your kids. So again, making sure that they understand that certain information personal that they can share online, like your favorite ice cream flavor. But then other things, again, like their name or their address, are not things that should be shared online. You may also want to encourage them to use a nickname online, and make sure that you're blocking any messaging features or access to any message boards at this age. It's really not appropriate. So if we move on to kids that are age 8 and up, so I'd say 8 to about 11, make sure that you're sitting with your kids, again, to make sure that they're only visiting approved websites. Again, here's where you want to make sure that your computer and technology is in an open area where it's easy for you to monitor. Set the parental controls at the most age-appropriate levels, and use filtering and monitoring as complements to, but not to replace monitoring your child. Again, use kid-friendly search engines. Don't allow any instant messaging, chat rooms, or social networking sites that should be intended for older audiences. And also, at this point, it might be okay for you to establish a shared family email account. So you'll have access to that and you'll know whom your child is interacting with. Get to know your child's online activities and friends. I already shared with you that when my son interacts with friends online, I make sure I know who he's speaking with, what their screen names are, and I keep track of that. It's also great to teach your child to come to you and ask before they share any information online. I mentioned in a few slides back that there are some safe search engines. So ask.com, Bing, Yahoo, Google, and also Lycos allow parental controls or safe online searches. There are some specific child-friendly search engines: Education World, Fact Monitor, Kubu, and Net Tracking and Safe Search for Kids, which is powered by Google, as well as Surfing the Net with Kids. So those are all something that should help to prevent kids from coming across inappropriate content. If you are interested in reading more about digital safety with your kids, there are some books that are recommended here on the slide. Kids Get Coding, Staying Safe Online. There's a couple of different books with that name. Good Digital Citizen is another book. And also Technology Tale is written by an author, Julia Cook, about kids and being safe online. There's some helpful websites that I have included on this slide. If you're looking for more information as a parent, or if you want to go through some of these topics with your kids online, missingkids.org, connectsafely.org, Media Smarts, educateempowerkids.org, BrainPop Jr., and BeInternetAwesome.com are all great places to check. And in conclusion, I have shared a list of the places that I got my resources for this webinar today. It's important that you also know that you can check those out for good information. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about how to keep your kids safe online and how to help them have a positive experience. And thanks so much for your time.